This is Notes in the Margin, a podcast for people who are super excited about writing their non-fiction book, but perhaps, just perhaps, aren't quite doing it. If you always feel called to tile the bathroom or clean the toilet instead of writing your book, you are in the right place. Your host, Vicky Quinn Fraser, has been there, done that, and has literally written a book about it. Join Vicky and her husband Joe as they make notes in the margin about creativity, writing techniques, publishing, and general shenanigans, and get tips and tricks to help you write your book. Hello and welcome to Notes in the Margin with me, Vicky Quinn Fraser.
And me, Joe Fraser. Hello.
Hello.
I'm never sure. There used to be a formulaic way for you to introduce these podcasts, and now you go off-piste on every one, and I'm lost.
I know, it's tricky. I've deliberately got no notes for this podcast.
Okay.
And you did a very good job of sounding surprised then, given that we've just discussed how I've got no notes for this podcast. We're just going to chat. This podcast actually nearly didn't happen because I was in the car earlier listening to another podcast, not mine, and just thinking, I need to make a podcast earlier. And then I was like, I don't want to. I feel like I've got nothing to say. And we're on like episode 300 and whatever.
Kind of said it all.
Yeah, and obviously we haven't, because you can never say it all, but I have just been feeling a little bit flat. And it's really funny because I was already thinking that, and then the podcast that I was listening to was Unthinkable by Jay Akunzo, and I probably horribly mispronounced your name, I'm so sorry, Jay.
Hi, Jay.
He's never going to listen to this. And so his work, I love his work, so he works in creativity.
Okay.
Like, that's what he does. And I'm on his email newsletter, which is one of the few that I read most of. And it's just great. But anyway, he was on episode 200. So also my competitive streak kicks in and I'm like, I'm winning.
I'm more than 100 ahead of you.
Clearly not winning. But he was talking about, this is his 200th episode, and the whole episode was about the fact that he was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And you know, we've had a few points, haven't we, over the years of...
Well, you just think, should we do this? Is this the thing to do?
Yeah.
Are we enjoying it?
Yeah. And
is there a point?
And that's the thing, but that's what he was talking about, was like... And I'm going to link to the episode I'm talking about in the show notes because it's really good. And like... I just think it was full of really important ideas, and I think I made like 14 or 15 different voice notes on my watch while I was driving. If you're a police officer, then that's a lie. I did not crash even once.
Not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit. Yeah. So he was like, what am I doing with this? What's the point? And it kind of got into, who am I doing it for? Who am I creating stuff for? Who am I writing for? Who am I producing for? And he kind of came to the conclusion that it was for him and it was for us. But it was mostly for him. And I really liked that because, and then he started talking to other people as well about, what they produce and why they produce it and what makes it difficult. And he quoted, and I should have done some preparation because I should have found the Twitter thread that I'm about to refer to by a guy whose name I have forgotten because that's how I roll.
Just making it up.
No, there's, I think, is a photographer called Myro, and I don't even know if that's his first name, but I will find the link and put it in the show notes so you can have a look. But he was talking about how the internet is flooded with like how you're supposed to do content, right?
Right.
And so...
How to do your small business, how to generate the leads, how to 10x your business.
Yeah, 10x your business, bro. And that's kind of where the cesspit of online marketing ends up, is 10x your business with this, 100 steps to whatever. And what you end up with is everybody in the same space putting out the same stuff. And you see, this is really funny phenomenon, actually, that you can see on LinkedIn and on... Instagram in particular, but you can see when some influencer has just released a new product, like a template pack or something, because suddenly it's everywhere and it's like, haven't I not just seen this? And then you realise, no, you've just seen 3 different people post almost the same thing.
Right.
And
because they've been paid to do so.
No, because they've bought this template pack and everybody...
Oh, I see.
Do you see what I mean? So everybody's bought the same product, the same 10x your business, bro, with these like 15 templates. And I sound like I'm, dropping shade on people who sell products like that, and I am a little bit, if I'm honest. But also, they can do what the hell they want. They can do what they want. But I just think there's, and I don't even care if people think I am sassing them, because I am, because there's this gap between people being sold a thing that's going to solve all like a magical thing that's going to solve all their problems. It's like, here is all of your content for the next year. And there's a difference between that and actually using that as just a starting point. It's like an analogy would be, I'm going to go and research for an essay, and I'm going to research only on Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not good enough. It's like Wikipedia is a jumping off point.
Starting point, yeah. So it might give you a framework to your further research.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't really know where I was going with that.
Everybody ends up looking the same.
They do.
And doing the same stuff because they feel like that's how business is done, or that's how a profitable business works, or whatever. They believe somebody's got a plan, and if they follow it, they too will have a plan.
That's success. Which, by the way, the success that you think you're seeing is never what's actually going on behind the scenes.
For sure.
So yeah, there's all that, and like I am not immune to this. I've bought so much shit in the past.
You have bought some shit.
I have bought some shit. I've also bought some really good stuff as well. And I think a lot of it is in how you use it. So I've bought template packs, and I've done the ship 30 for 30 thing, which I have found immensely useful. I've also found it to be a little bit limiting. Like, I think if you're not willing to use them as a jumping off point, you're going to end up with formulaic stuff that And even, amongst the stuff that I've been seeing with wildly different topics, you can see the templates that people have been using. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that if it goes a bit deeper and the message is interesting and all the rest of it. But that's the thing. It's like, I think the thing that Jay Akunzo was grasping, was driving at in his podcast was like, what are you doing this for? And that, I think I've really struggled the past couple of weeks since I kicked off Microbook Magic season 3, because I stopped promoting it because
it was done
and it had to start
the
doing
course
it.
had started.
Yeah. And I was just exhausted. And so I was just like, oh, now I get to write some stuff. And I've written barely anything. I've struggled to get out a couple of email newsletters. I've written a couple of essays that, articles that are in there that could be good but aren't very good, because I just didn't give myself enough time to do them justice. And it's just like, well, why am I doing this? And I'm doing it because I think I should do it. And it's like, I'm doing the things that I've been told I should do to grow my business, and I've been doing it in this certain way. It's like, oh, what's the end driving result? And the driving end result is always late stage capitalism. It's like, what is the reason that you're doing this is to build my business and to make money. And do not hear what I'm not saying. There is nothing wrong with making lots of money. But the way we go about it, I think, is often really problematic. Not only in ethical ways, there's a lot of like ethical issues with all sorts of ways that people make money and sell things and run businesses, but just in like a feeding your soul kind of way. It's just exhausting. Like, I'm just tired of...
It does not do you good just to be doing what you think you should be doing in order to generate some cash money.
No, it just creates this gap between who you are and, who you want to be. And it's just kind of depressing. And so I was listening to this podcast and I was just like, that's it. That is the crux of it. It's like, and that's why I started doing Microbook Magic as well. It's like, not to come and do this, write this book because it's going to 10x your business, because anyone who promises you that is lying anyway. But like, the whole point behind it was, come and write something that you want to write just because you want to write it. Like, that's a good enough reason.
This is going to be fun and you'll enjoy it.
But the world we live in and the way we've been brought up and the way we're socialised to run businesses and stuff, that's not okay. It's a waste of time. It's frivolous. It's and that's reflected as well in, look at all of the arts funding that has been cut. Look at how everything is going towards, business. There's money. It's like, at some point, everything is going to collapse into a big pile of shit, and the powers that be are going to be like, oh, maybe we shouldn't have cut all the art. Maybe these things are connected, Duh. So...
maybe there should be more to life than just generating money.
Yeah. And so, like, that's obviously a bigger conversation. But I think we start by making space for doing the things that we want to do and creating the things we want to create.
And I remember really early on in your business, you were, one of your key goals was to, yes, generate some money, got to pay the bills, but also generate some free time so that you could do the things you wanted to do. You wanted to be working 3 days a week or 4 days a week, or you wanted to be working the hours you wanted to work instead of all of the hours. And you wanted time to train and to have space and to read and to write your stuff. And it's, allowing your business to have more goals in your welfare rather than just your financial health, I think is hugely important.
Yeah, and for the first few years, I didn't get anywhere near that because I bought into this idea that you just have to do more all the time. It's like chase the money.
10xing all the way.
Yeah.
Hustling everywhere.
And now I'm still not where I want to be, but like today I got to spend the whole day, I say got to, and you're going to give me the side eye in a minute, but I got to spend the whole day working on my assignment for my master's degree that I'm doing. Let's leave aside why I'm doing it today and not last week. But and like Friday afternoon, I spend in the studio training trapeze, and that's what I get to do. And I would like even more time. But the thing is, I work very long days when I'm not doing that.
Very long days.
And that I would like to change a little bit because it's just tiring. Or I want to be making sure that I'm working on stuff that I want to be working on.
But that's difficult, isn't it? Because when you make the decision, you tend to make quite big decisions. I'm going to work on this thing and I want to do that. And then maybe 6 months later, that decision needs reviewing. Yeah. Because now you're in the habit of doing that thing.
And that's when the wheels start to fall off.
Are you really doing it because you still want to do it? Or are you doing it because you formed a habit really effectively? Or are you doing it through gritted teeth? I think a more continuous review of things that we're doing is worth having.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right about that, which is why I'm taking myself to Edinburgh for a few days after this round of Microbook Magic. Because that's the other trap that we fall into, I think. Drifting slightly off topic, but that's fine. The other trap that we fall into is like you have to pick a thing and then do it forever. And it's just like, no, we don't. And especially for people like me who want to do 15,000 things all at once, it's like, you know what? I'm not saying just get bored of something and then drop it because, that's toddler behavior. But like, don't push yourself to keep doing things if it's obvious that you really don't want to be doing it anymore. Like give it a chance. And definitely, if you're marketing, don't try something once and then go, that didn't work, so I'm not going to do it again. It's like, give it a chance.
There is a process. Yeah,
there is a process. But when it comes to like creative work and writing and stuff, it's like, just follow the stuff that you're interested in. And this is going to be another podcast recommendation, which will also be in the show notes, is an episode of You Are Not So Smart, in which David McCraney interviews Temple Grandin, which was such a cool episode. And I can't imagine anyone hasn't heard of Temple Grandin, but just in case, she is like probably the best known autism advocate and animal welfare kind of systems design person and engineer, I guess. She is just an absolute genius. But in this episode, she was talking about one of the problems with the world as it is now is that and we talk about this all the time with your business, is like recruiting people who can do what you need them to do. And it's because they got rid of all the practical stuff in schools. Like when I was a kid, I remember making perspex shit and going to woodworking shop and being forced to do home economics, which I did not enjoy so much. And really practical stuff. And I did art GCSE. And nowadays, I know you can still do art and more practical stuff, but like
there's a lot less practical stuff to be done, I think.
Yeah, but also it's like she was talking a lot about this like academic brain is not always like, there's more than one type of intelligence, was her point. And so her kind of circling back to where we kind of started, her point was support kids, and she was particularly talking about autistic kids and ADHD kids, but support them in doing the things that they're interested in. Don't try and stop them from doing the things they get fixated on. Like support them and then expand it. And that's what she said, her words were expand it. So if like a kid is interested, and quite often autistic kids are interested in like transport stuff, so trains and cars.
Super focus on something.
Yeah, but like take that and then expand it. So it's like, okay, you're really interested in cars, let's look at how an engine works. Let's take that apart. Or kids that are fascinated with clocks, it's like, cool, how do we take a clock apart and put it back together? How do we make a radio? And all of the practical stuff that we actually need to create the industry of life.
Yeah, a thriving, useful economy based on things getting done.
Yeah, because you hear people moaning about the fact that all of the industry has been, is not in the UK. We don't make things in the UK anymore. It's even worse in America. And they're like, oh, it's like it's all been sent abroad, and it's always somebody else's fault, right? It's always like, oh, those bloody foreigners taking our industry. And it's like, it happened because we stopped allowing kids to do practical stuff in schools and stopped encouraging it and put all of this focus on everybody must go to university and be academic.
Yeah. And that does not suit everybody.
Does not suit everybody. In fact, I don't even think it suits most people.
Yeah.
And so...
And particularly as well in like academia, in like the practical things, she was saying on the podcast, wasn't she, that like algebra is maths.
It's too abstract.
It's deemed like this gatekeeper for success.
For engineering. For
engineering and for design and for everything else. It's like, you've got to be able to do this maths, otherwise you can't do this sort of practical role.
That's such bullshit.
And you just cut off a whole swathe of really useful, really practical, really handy people who can think in really interesting ways and come up with really great ideas. But they're not great at calculus.
Or algebra. Yeah. And like she can't do, I mean, she can do maths obviously, but she was talking about, and she is a genius by any stretch of the word genius, right? And she was talking about how she can't do algebra. She has memorized very specific equations that she needs for the very specific work that she does because she can do that. But like, she failed maths at school.
Yeah, the abstract stuff just doesn't make sense.
And she said, she was trying to do her PhD today. She probably wouldn't get in. Like, how? That is just ludicrous to me.
So she would be, doing something much less interesting and much less useful to society. We need to get people, having fun and doing creative things.
Yeah, and I think
the population needs to be doing that stuff.
Yeah, and we need to find a joy. And I think that brings it neatly back around to where we started, which is, why are you doing the things that you do? Why are you doing the work that you do? And this is a question that I've kind of constantly asked myself, but especially the last couple of weeks, because I've just been struggling to produce anything, like anything worthwhile at all. And the last thing that I produced that I really was proud of and got the best mark that I've got so far in my masters was that flipping thing about cheese that I wrote. Do you remember?
Your panic-eating cheese essay.
I'm going to do a panic-eating mangoes essay as well. But I'd done like, I think probably mentioned this on the podcast before, but we'll do it again. I had this assignment due and I got to like 2 days before it was due and I had nothing but 5 different starts, 5 different pieces that I had started and abandoned.
None of which had really gripped you or you were enjoying writing or anything?
No, I was like, I feel like I should do something like this. And then in the end, I went and panic ate some cheese and I was like, I'm going to write about this because this is weird. Like my cheese eating behaviour is weird, like by anybody's standards. And everybody has, weird quirks and stuff.
Is this cheese essay also going to be in the show notes?
No. So it needs editing. I got a great mark for it, but I also got really good notes from my tutor, so I want to improve it and then see if I can get it published somewhere, because it just I'm really proud of it. And that's another thing. It's like there might be people listening thinking, oh, she's a bit up herself. She thinks a lot of herself. Yeah, you know what? I do think a lot of myself when it comes to that essay. I'm really proud of it, and it's really good already, and it could be excellent. So, but the thing is, I so enjoyed writing it. Like, it was a joy to write. As soon as I sat down to write it, didn't need an awful lot. Well, I got the notes and I'm going to do the editing, but it didn't need an awful lot of editing before I submitted it, because I loved it. I loved doing it. I do a lot of writing in my head. Before anyone thinks that I shit out really good first drafts, that's not true. I do a lot of my first and second drafting in my head before it ever reaches the paper. So yeah, but that's the thing that's the only thing that I've written recently that I've really enjoyed writing.
So yeah, we really need to find some fun stuff.
Yeah, but that's kind of my mission for everybody else as well. It's like, how can I get people to write more fun stuff and believe that it's okay for them to do so? Because we're told, it's drummed into us that if it's not productive, and I'm doing big air quotes with my fingers, if it's not productive in the very specific meaning that Western capitalism has for it, as in, is it useful and going to make money in some way, then it's not considered to be of value. And that's just such bullshit. Because I think actually you can, creating stuff that you love for just because you want to can have surprising results. Because if you write for connection instead of for sales, that's the key. It's like, write for connection, make a connection with the people that you're writing for, creating for, whatever art you're making. And that's just going to have more of a a meaningful impact. It's like you might get fewer eyeballs on it, but the ones you get will be, there'll be people who want more from you. And there'll be people who maybe will be inspired, to write their own stuff or create their own, whatever your medium is. I'm talking about writing, but it could be anything.
I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
It's a really good point.
Thank you.
I like it.
Thanks. It's probably a good point to end on.
Probably is.
So yeah, we've deviated a little bit from the normal format. Joe, what book are you reading this week?
I'm still on Wanderers.
Okay.
But I'm getting very close to the end of it. I keep going to bed way too late and reading the same paragraph like 6 times and then falling asleep.
Yeah, same. I am currently reading Raising Steam by Terry Pratchett, 10 Steps to Nanette by Hannah Gadsby, Calypso by David Sedaris, Entangled Life by Merlin Sheldrake, and what's that one under there?
Have you ever considered reading fewer books?
Oh, I'm not reading that. I'm turning that into poems.
Okay.
So here's another thing that I'm doing just because I bloody want to, although I haven't done any this week and that's just reminded me. I have books on my bookshelf by people whose values I no longer share, let's put it like that. And I was like, why are these books still on my bookshelf? I should give them away. And then I was like, no, I don't want to propagate these ideas because I don't agree with them. So I'm turning them into blackout poetry, and I've got myself a big fat Sharpie. And I am doing, and I learned this from Austin Kleon, who is, again, a writer about creativity, and he's great. I love his stuff as well, so go find him on social media. But he does blackout poetry, and he does it in newspapers and all sorts, and I was like, I'm going to fuck up these books because I don't like them. And so basically it's like I draw a little outline around words that I like the look of, and then I black out everything else, and then I gradually black out some of those words, and I end up with poems. Little poems made out of other people's words, and I turn something that's kind of icky into something beautiful.
Nice.
Or at least funny and quirky. So yeah, maybe try that. Maybe that could be your first thing. Like, pick a book off your shelf that makes you angry and then deface it and repurpose it and turn it into something new. And if you're one of those people who are like, books are sacred, I used to think that too, and I love books, and I would, anybody who burns a book is going to get a punch in the face from me. But like, I have no problem with writing notes. I write all over my books, like write notes in the margin. Except
you use books?
I use books, except for special editions of Terry Pratchett books. I have many editions of Terry Pratchett books, so I have some that I will write notes in, and some that if anybody even touches them with ungloved hands, I will cut them. So, but yeah, if you have here is your homework for today, dear listener. Find a book on your shelf that makes you angry or that you no longer agree with the person or whatever, and instead of it taking up space and, doing nothing, turn it into poetry. Turn it into a piece of art. Maybe you want to, like, cut out shapes from it. Maybe you want to, like, turn it into, like, a secret safe and hide something in there like you did when you were a kid. Maybe you want to turn it into blackout poetry. Maybe you want to draw on it. Like, I know people who take old books and then they use, like, heavy pens and pencils and paint pictures on them. And I just think that's a really lovely idea. Book art.
Do something because you want to.
Do
instead
something
of because you
want
should.
to. Yes. Just because you want to. You don't have to have any other reason than that.
Cool.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for chatting, Joe.
No worries.
I'm glad we made this episode, considering that I didn't want to.
Yeah.
We're going to go and watch the last episode of The Last of Us now. I'm really anxious about it.
I'm going to go and cook.
Okay. What do we normally say? Thank you to Podfly for all of the things that you do for us. Thank you to Carolyn, who is my new VA, for keeping everything shuffling along in the background. Thank you to you, dear listener, for listening. And if you have enjoyed this podcast, the best possible way that you could support it is to tell other people about it. So if you've heard something in this or any other episode that has resonated with you or has made you think differently or has inspired you to do something or has just made you smile, please share it with someone. And if you really like it and you really want to help, then if you could go and leave us a review and a rating wherever
5 stars.
yes, please, wherever you get your podcasts. Apple would be great because then I know where to find them. Or you could just write to me, vicky@moxiebooks.co.uk, and tell me what you think about everything.
This nonsense.
All of it, yeah. I will take questions as well.
All right.
Ask me things. Right, we will be back same time next week, probably, maybe not.
Perhaps.
Might come up with something else by then. Cool. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening. Check out the show notes at moxiebooks.co.uk/podcast for links to everything we've mentioned in this episode. Remember to subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. And if you'd like to hear more from Notes in the Margin, you can sign up to get regular emails from Vicky into your inbox at moxiebooks.co.uk/notes in the margin. We'll be back same time next week.